Hello and welcome back to another episode of Strong Collectors Comics. My name is Jordan and I'm joined today, as ever, by my plucky co-host Dakota. And today we're going to be talking about different ways that you can read your comics. Because we really read a lot of comic books over here at Strong Collectors. And there's a couple ways to do that. You got your single issues, you got your trade paperbacks, and if you want to go with the bulk buy method, you got your omnibuses. However, we're going to talk a little bit about the merits of each of those. So, Dakota, if you think about your ideal comic reading experience, which one do you go with the most?
I think for me, there's definitely pros and cons to each, but I think if I had to pick only one, I would probably stick with my trades.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I got into comic books. And I think that's, I don't know, maybe you can let us know down in the comments, but I think that's a very easy way to get others into reading comic books because, you get multiple in one spot, but it's not an overwhelming amount. I don't
Mm-hmm.
feel like I need to be quite as gentle with my single issues or with my trades as I do with my
Yeah.
single issues. There's kind of that more like I bought the trade for the purpose of reading it. There's not really going to be that much value in it 10 years down the road, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with modern trades, like they're pretty well produced. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's my preferred way.
Mm-hmm.
Not overwhelming, but still a substantial amount of story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think trades are definitely what I have the most of, and I think what I have read the most stories in. Whether
Mhm.
it's simple things like when I check them out of the library, or
Yeah.
just getting a good way to get the complete story without having to be there from the beginning necessarily.
Mhm.
So I think those are probably most convenient, and I definitely see the appeal of those. I part of it for me depends because I will follow single issue series, but there's always kind of that feeling once it's done. Like you said, I'd almost rather have it in a trade paperback, right? Because it's
Right.
kind of easier to pick up page through, even if you want to loan it out. I mean that's a
Mhm.
much easier thing than loaning out 12 single issues. Um, but there is something cool to me about the experience of reading a series or story as it's coming out.
For sure.
Picking them up once a month or however often that is, and just kind of experiencing a story that way, I think is actually pretty
Yeah.
cool and kind of
I think
forces
that's for
me
sure.
to like pace myself. I'm not going to blow through it
Mhm.
all in like one day and be like, oh, the story's over.
Yeah. I think single issues are definitely the like truest way to enjoy comics because, typically what that's going to tell is you're going to have to go to the comic book store, which is like an adventure in itself because, each one's a little differently. Some have their own unique sights and smells. But, typically you're in that like nerd space, like it's one of those spots as comic book readers. I mean, we fit in a little more now, but back in the day it's kind of like you go there and you're like, these are my people, I fit in here, this is the kind of people that enjoy the same things I do, whether it's the same stories, but it's like we're all reading comics. The person checking it out, you can be like, hey, is this a good one? This one, I'm debating between these two books, but they probably have some sort of insight for you. You can talk to somebody that really knows what they're doing there.
Mhm.
um, and that's like you can get your volumes at a comic book store, but you can also get those at like your Barnes and Noble. People probably maybe they know comics there, but they probably don't. You're not really going to be able to
Mhm.
get very great advice for those kinds of things. But yeah, going to the comic book store, get to pick up your issues, and then I don't know. For
Mhm.
me, I always like bag and board them because maybe they're going to be worth something someday, or just like I like to take care of my comics. Probably nothing I have is
Mhm.
going to ever go through the roof and be super valuable, but it's still just that fun experience of like getting the covers, the story inside of it, and then, like you
Mhm.
said, it paces the story out over a longer period versus just sitting down and reading through the entirety.
I think I really like that part of it too, like the experience of going to the comic store and then kind of
Hmm.
browsing the different series or finding different ones you want to pick up. And yeah, you really miss out on that whole component, really, if you're just getting them always in collected editions.
Hmm.
I see the money part of it. You save money long term getting a trade paperback, and then with single issues. But I guess I like that part of it though, where it's like you can pick up the first issue, and then maybe if you're like, this is terrible, you're done. You're not Like if I
True.
bought a trade paperback, I'd be like, I probably got to finish this even if it's junk. Which I guess there's pros and
Right.
cons to that because maybe it's just a bad first issue. But it kind of is a way. Sometimes I'll pick up something and like I don't really know much about this, but the cover looks cool, so I'll read one issue. I can give them $4 and then see how it goes,
Yeah.
or $3 if you're old daddy Todd. Right? And did he raise those? Are those still
No,
$2.99?
no. I think
All right,
there's, yeah, I think they're still the cheapest ones, or one of the
there you
cheapest
go.
ones on the rack. For me, I was definitely getting my single issues from the comic book store for quite a while,
Mm-hmm.
but I think the economical part is going to push me back over into getting the volumes, just
Mm-hmm.
because I, I I don't always like having to wait for a story to come out once a month. I'd
Mm-hmm.
rather just wait until the end, and then I'm going to save money and I'm going to get my story kind of more in one spot if
Yeah.
I know what the story is. Like I've been getting a lot of the Dynamite stuff with like Lilo and Stitch. I've been doing kind of the older, like when they bring back Gargoyles, when they're doing
Mm-hmm.
Thundercats. Like I know I want to read those stories, so it's not like I
Yeah.
don't need to try them out. Like I want to read them in their entirety, no matter how good they are. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I'd rather save the money, get the volume, and then read it that way. And then now going into omnibuses and the
Mm-hmm.
compendiums and things that are like a bit more substantial, usually that's going to be like 50-ish issues, give or take, maybe a little more, maybe a little less.
Mm-hmm.
um, I've been doing that more with my older Spawn stuff, going back and getting those compendiums. I think I've got up to 4, and I just finished the second one today. um,
Mm-hmm.
I usually get those through Amazon. I should probably go to my local comic book store to get them, but trying to save money here.
Wow, dude, you're the reason. You're the reason they're dying.
Yeah, I know. You come for me in the comments.
Just
I know I
building
deserve
that.
it.
Yeah, keep
Speaking of
going.
that, I could put the Amazon links down in the affiliate links in the
There you go.
description. So check that out.
Love it.
But I'm able to get those for less than $1 an issue. Those older
Yeah.
comics that I could get the volumes, but there's so many volumes I'd have to get where
Mm-hmm.
I can. I think he's gonna have 6. What is it? He's up to the 300. So 2, 4, 6. Yeah, 6
Mm-hmm.
compendiums will get me up to 300 issues.
Yeah.
Um, and those are $35 to $50 each, depending on a sale. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't love that way to read all of my books, but with Spawn, it's something I kind of want to get through the entire series eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I will say the weight of that is substantial, so it's not always the most comfortable to hold versus a regular comic or a
Yeah, that's
volume.
what I would say, man. I do see the value of it. Like you get a whole bunch of books at once. They're all
Hmm.
collected. I think they're, I've done it for some. I have a couple omnis that I like. I think for me, I envision those for like older books that are like harder to track down that maybe they don't
Hmm.
have in print as much. Um, like I'd ordered like the ROM omnibus because I want to read ROM.
Right.
I don't even know if they have like collected trades, maybe
Hmm.
from like the 80s or 90s or something, but I don't think you can buy them like just like that. So to me, it
Right.
makes sense for that, but it's not, yeah, the most comfortable just because it is a giant, pretty heavy book. And like
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard to even get it like open the way you would like a trade paperback to like see the whole
Hmm.
thing. And because if you're like in the beginning, maybe this is very specific, but it's like so bottom heavy. Like you
Yeah.
almost start like more gingerly, like flipping the pages at first until then it all
Right.
starts flopping over. So to me,
Yep.
it's not super comfortable. And I don't really like that part of it,
Yeah.
which is for me a pretty big because some people are real into the omnibuses, and that's just like they got their
Hmm.
shelves loaded with them, and I get it. They look cool. It's a good way to
Yeah.
get a bunch of books. For me, it's a little more selective though if I'm gonna
Hmm.
decide to go that route.
Yeah. It does make your bookshelf look a lot more like a bookshelf when you've got those, because I mean those are like, especially when you get the hardback ones, it's like those are textbooks
Mhm.
essentially. Like I mean
Yeah.
I've had some omnibuses that are heavier than textbooks, especially if they're hardcover. Um, and like I
Hmm.
think maybe it's just I don't have too many. I think I only have Spawn compendiums, and I have one
Hmm.
Invincible, kind of the like Invincible Universe compendium. The difference in quality on those is kind of surprising. So I'm not sure if all compendiums are created equally, because the Spawn ones
Hmm.
is kind of like a glossy cover with like somewhat glossy pages.
Hmm.
The Invincible Universe one, it's like a little bit floppier of a cover, and then the inside pages are much more papery feeling. So I don't know. Maybe you can leave me a comment down below. Is that are most of them that
What's
way?
the
And Todd
difference
just makes it a little more premium because his single
there?
issues are also more premium than other comics as well. Because I remember
Yeah.
I was only reading Spawn for a while, and then I picked up maybe it was like DC was doing Fortnite or something. I picked up one of those and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, this is like very flimsy feeling paper compared to what Spawn is used. So I don't know. Something else to consider, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the Marvel trades to me have gotten much worse quality over the years.
Mm,
I feel like I used to remember getting them. They felt a little sturdier, and most of the ones that I've gotten in like recent years, they almost bend like a magazine. Like they're so like you can kind of like
mm,
flip them around, which yeah, I don't like that route. Like it's almost like condensing it to be as small or lightweight as possible.
yeah.
But I feel like you kind of start to lose the integrity of when you got that many issues crammed into like a little tiny collection.
Hmm.
Um, I don't really like that part of it. I think
Yeah.
some of the more independent or not independent, maybe, like smaller companies will, and
Hmm.
maybe that's why Todd can do it. Like I don't have to crank out as much, so I can kind of like
True.
afford to make it the way I want to. Because like I think
Hmm.
Image and some of those other their trades feel a little like not like a hardcover, but it's sturdier,
Hmm.
like you said, and it feels a
Yeah.
little better put together. Those are some of our thoughts on the main three ways to read your comics. Let us know below in the comments, of course, what your preferred way is to read books. We do have some thoughts on reading digital comics, so stay tuned for a future episode where we discuss the pros and cons and the pitfalls of digital comics in our technological AI world, Dakota. So please be liking, sharing, and subscribing. And until next time, stay strong.